Mm. Hey y'all, welcome to the Devon A. Morris Unfiltered call-in show. Have a seat. Let's get ready. You have any questions? Come on, call in. Come on to that Discord channel. Do me a favor, get the unfiltered crew some finger snaps. We're ready to get started here. Mondays, 8 p.m. Every single Monday, we're here. I'm excited about it. Are you? Let's get this show started, y'all. The greatest Scrum show on earth. I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. How you doing? How's it going? I've been in front of these lights all day. I'm telling you, had training, had things going on. Hopefully everything is going good for you this week, at least to the start of this week. So I hope that's just the case. I always want you to be doing what you love to do all the time. So that's always it's just such an amazing thing. So welcome to the Unfiltered Call-In Show. We talk about Agile, Scrum, entrepreneurship, just those kind of topics in general. I need to put my light higher, but it's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. Um, let's talk about, well, here was what I'd love to hear. For everyone that's here, say hi. Tell me where you at. Where you at in the world, right? Where you in the world? There's some things going on, which is crazy. I'm concerned about friends I have in Tampa. Um, I got one friend in Accra right now, and they got some things going on. So it's just quite a few weather-related things that are concerning. And so I wish the best for anyone that is anywhere near any of those kind of problems. If you're in these kind of areas, man, you need to not, maybe you don't need to be here. You need to go take care of that, right? But it's been a good start to the week. I got a class going on. I'll have, I got classes coming up next few weeks, but in terms of publicly, the next big class I have is really around the 24th of October. Because I've gone through a series of them right now, so that's a good thing. Give me a chance to go and do some coaching stuff and all kinds of things I need to do as a part of, my job, the job I have to do, deal with Bearded Eagle to some degree. So that's a good thing. Other than that, everything else is just kind of, just one of those lives where I'm kind of getting used to a new way of living, right? I said new way of living because, once your kids are gone, you have different options available to you than the every day, right? And so it's good to see them living their lives and doing things that they need to do, which I love and enjoy and completely respect. But that means that you got to find something to do, right? And that's what I'm doing. I'm finding things to do with my life, even though I got class and everything else that I'm normally involved in. So that's a good thing. So I definitely welcome that. Now, something that's very interesting has happened here, which I want to just kind of show. I just gotta do this because this is important. I know Mr. Joe Collins, and you know, he literally said, "I'm competing with Monday Night Football," and that is some courage. Yeah, I never even thought about that. I am so out of the football game. I kind of got in that situation where football was having too much of an impact on me emotionally. So I had to, as I tell the story, I am permanently a fan of the Chicago Bears because that's where I'm from, right? But we're still married, me and these Bears. But we sleep in separate rooms like super old married folks. Like we just sleeping in other rooms is what we're doing. Because I don't plan to come back anytime soon because it's really emotional. And they got a game that's going to be happening in Dallas. They're going to play against the actual Cowboys. And people ask me, should I go? And probably not. Probably not. It's probably not going to happen, right? But I ain't too worried about it. They don't pay me for that, so I don't worry about it. So, as stated, make sure you say hi as you come in. Speak as we always will speak. Tell me where you're from, because I don't be knowing where people are from either. And hopefully you are being safe in this world today. Hopefully that's the case. I'm going to say hey to Patrick. Patrick always comes through. I always appreciate you. I know where you are at Patrick. So hopefully you're having a good day. I'm having a good day. I'm actually having a pretty good day. I'm actually, I got things that are happening to people around me that's really exciting. People closing on houses, people change their lives in such a way that it's amazing. Talking to people I haven't talked to in a long time. It's been an amazing past 4 or 5 days for me. So I feel, for lack of a better term, I feel blessed. I feel fortunate. Um, I just really, really do. And it's a really good place to be, if that makes sense. So I love it. Absolutely love it. So I feel like I'm having a good time. Hopefully things are happening wonderful in people's lives as well. And we go from there. We talk about it. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing? Hello, sir. How you doing? Seeing you in class today. Good to see you. You've been in stuff before, so I've seen your name many, many times. So this is a good thing. So again, make sure you say hi as you come in. We always do that. But there's a topic that someone gave me that I wanted to bring up, and it's almost really about networking. I mean, I call it the relationships that you have and why your Scrum relationships are, you know, why the main reason why they fail. Um, and I want to talk about that topic a little bit. And this is not an attempt to throw anybody under the bus. This is not an attempt to um, do anything crazy. But most of the time, a lot of times, the reason why your relationships fail is because you haven't built them strong enough to withstand time apart from each other. So, I had a couple of good people I talked to recently. One of them I met down in San Antonio, right? And this guy helped to get me to a company called USA, and we did some great work at USA. Had many, many conversations outside of just the work nature, right? We have similar upbringings. I'm from the Midwest. He's from the coast, right? But still, the upbringings are very, very similar, right? He got a few years on me, but just having the opportunity to catch up with him, not every month, maybe once a year, once every other year, right? Means that when he calls on me, I answer. We talk, we catch up. We don't talk about how your kids are because I expect them to take care of his kids. And so that's a relationship that was cultivated back in '07. And as people go down their paths, they tend to want to um, remain connected to people that they have connected to during that period, that season in their lives, right? And so the question, at least from a fraternity standpoint, coming to my fraternity, friendship is essential to the soul. And so if you come into my fraternity and you're not able to truly build some friendships, you've missed the whole point. At least one person that you are willing to go to bat for, and they could do the same thing for you. And I'm not saying that you need to build those kind of relationships with people because that can be impossible to do, especially when you're in a work environment. But you succeed together, you fail together, you find things to talk about beyond that is what you do. You can ask them about how family is, they have interest in some of the stuff you do, you have interest in some of the stuff that they do. It becomes this amazing exchange, if that makes sense. An amazing exchange. And so when you start thinking about these relationships that you have you cultivated them in the season while you have them available to you? Um, I tend to cultivate my relationships in that season. And I'm not saying that after that season is up, that I end up talking to them every day, not even every year. It's not that way. But they know that if they called upon me, I would answer the call. And I know if I called upon them, they would answer the call. And then, what had happened is, in the company he's working for, they're kind of looking for agile talent, and he brings my name up, and the person he brings my name up to knows me. Like, she was involved in the meetup that we were doing here in Texas called Texas Agile. We were doing a meetup once a month, but she was helping me work that. Not to mention that I've trained her. We have some people come out of training and you end up with a closer relationship with them. And I have a close relationship to her, but not one where we talk every year. Not one of those relationships. But when we catch up, it's an amazing thing because we've had some great exchanges. We have reason to have conversation, right? She needs something. If she calls on me, I got her, right? I know if I call on her, I need something, she got me, right? And you learn about people's families and their relationships and some of the things that they're trying to achieve, and then we kind of part ways in this agile journey, and then we find ways to get back together, and it becomes really, really important. My question for you is, when you think about the relationships that you've built along the way within this agile space, within the Scrum space. And again, I believe you built relationships outside of the space. I'm not questioning those, right? But when you think about the relationships that you built in this space, just this space alone, right? Can you say that you've built one relationship that you can call on when there's a need? If you feel like that you can do that, just do me a favor, right? Do me a huge favor. Just say, type the word agile friend, that you got an agile friend, right? I don't want to say friend, but just say you type the word agile friend in the chat if you feel like you have achieved that with at least one person while you've been on this journey. Does that make sense? And it's one way, it's also they feel that way about you. Because if it is you and them and all those things have interlocked, then you have one of those agile or scrum friends that you can call upon when the need happens. And you don't call upon them for just menial things, right? Because there's something important about that exchange, not just for you, not just for them, but there's something about the integration of that exchange that makes it bigger than the sum of its parts, makes it bigger. But again, I don't see anybody throwing that out there. So throw it out there for me. Have you built that relationship with a person? I'm not saying more than one person because I feel like I've done this with several people, right? I really do. I really feel that way. And I know that they probably would call on me, even in a mentor mentee relationship. I don't know what it is, right? But I'm curious if you have an agile friend. If you have an agile friend. Because if you don't, this is where your relationships, your scrum relationships are failing you because you have not taken the time to build that friend. You haven't taken the time to look out for someone enough or to allow someone to even connect with you enough where you can feel like you can do that, where you can feel like you can call upon them. If you haven't done that, I'm concerned, and you should be concerned, because when you have a need, even if it's just an emotional need where I just need to have a conversation with someone, right? I just need to talk to somebody about all this pain that I'm having right now so that I can get through this pain. Even if it's just that. I'm not talking about they got connections for you. I'm not talking about any of the other things. Do you have what I'm calling an agile friend? Does that exist in your world? I don't know. I know it exists in my world. Okay, multiple times over. Okay, and this has nothing to do with the fact I've been around Scrum and Agile a long time, right? I mean, that gives me extra opportunity, right? This has everything to do with what you do while you're in that season with that person. Because I'm not saying to you that you carry everybody throughout every season that you have. But in that season that you have with that person, do you gain a friend? Maybe an associate you have, but I'm not talking about associate. I'm really not talking about an associate. I'm really talking about an agile friend. Okay? Patrick says that to me. He says, yeah, 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 I got it, right? Do you have it? Because, I can say this much. I trust Patrick. I've seen Patrick around this space in many places, and it's not like we're planning to be there. Does that make sense? And I know that if it wasn't for the pandemic, right, probably would have been harder for me to get to know Patrick in these spaces, but I know this much to be true. I know when I go to New York, I know I'm going to try to connect with Patrick. Why am I going to try to connect with Patrick? Because I think that season is there. I think it gives me the opportunity to get to know him and him get to know me, and maybe I'll have another agile friend. That again, in a season, it takes to build that friendship, but that friendship can last for a lifetime. Now I know it cannot be true. This cannot be true that he's the only one, because all I've seen is one. If he's the only one, then I need for you to think about the season that you're in right now, and what are you going to do to make sure that you create that kind of relationship with someone? Maybe you do nothing. Maybe this means absolutely nothing to you. But it was nice to have a conversation today with someone who I'm familiar with someone who I can ask about her kids, or I can ask them about, hey, this is this something over here, right? Or we can understand part of the reason why we're connected. You know, there's a respect there, right? There's a respect there. There's a love there. There's all kinds of stuff, right? And I say this because when you move on beyond this life, is somebody gonna be looking for you? Is somebody gonna miss you in this space? In this space, I have a friend in this space that died. That died. You know, um, that died. Okay, met his wife. I was at his wedding. I love that guy. He worked my nerve. I love him. He worked my nerves, but I love him. I love him. Right? We've done things together. We've shared meals together. We've done stuff that takes it beyond that. Now, did I know all his family? No, I did not. I did not. But that death had a pain on me. It made me think about the relationships that I have in this space. And then I remember seeing something where somebody, didn't know he passed away 2 months after that, and was concerned that they missed everything. And, I get that we're in this, space where people may not have access to our social media and whatever it is, and people find out however they find out. But if I would have found out that long later, I would have been hurt. I would have been hurt because I know his wife. I broke bread with him. I would have been hurt. In those situations, there's not a lot that I can do because I am an outsider to the family to some degree. But he was my agile friend. He was one of them. He was one of them. Moved from a mentee to a friend type situation. So I always go to, why do we have these problems? And I think that a lot of them boil down to us as individuals. Okay. So make sure that as you're on this agile journey, that you build friends within reason. So, and then you can get through this journey much easier because we tend to do a better job at it when we collectively go someplace. Okay. On that note, I think that's all I'm going to say on that topic. That's it. We're going to kind of move on. And for us to move on, I'd love for you to drop your questions in the chat, any questions that you may have. You're also welcome to join me on the call-in show. Now, it's easy to join me on a call-in show because all you fundamentally have to do is jump into the link that I'm going to provide in the chats right now. That link right there is the link that you need to utilize, okay? And I got to drop it in both chats, so give it just a second. Drop it in on LinkedIn. I'm going to drop it in on YouTube, okay? So both of these places, I'm actually dropping it so you all can receive it. So if you have any questions on Agile, Scrum, entrepreneurship, all those kind of things, please, 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 please jump online and let's talk about it, okay? One of these things had an error, so let's try that again. Oh, wow. Okay. I'm gonna try one more time. Oh, wow. Some reason, Mr. YouTube doesn't want to let me drop you all a message, right? Don't want to let me join. I'll give you the link to join the show. But again, you're welcome to drop your questions within the chat. You're definitely welcome to do that. Okay. And I'm gonna, at some point solve this LinkedIn problem. I will. But I want to make sure that you all have the information that you need. And then again, as I always do, as always, additional things to talk about. We could talk about some of these additional things. I tried to talk about some stuff last time, but it just we ended up having somebody call in, so it just made it a little bit different. So yeah, so really, really important. But I do want to make sure I drop this link for you all, so and then you can be good to go. So give me just a second. Let's just try it. Let's see, and let's just try to drop this one more time because it gave me an error earlier, which was a whole problem. I've never got an error on trying to drop a link in a chat. Yeah, it's okay. And if you haven't seen this link, here it is right here, right? I mean, I know that'd be a lot to type out, but you're certainly welcome to join the show. You're certainly welcome to drop your questions in the chat. In the past few weeks, it's been one of those things where I wanted to talk to you about some other things that existed, some things in the news, because I'm just getting to a place where I'm seeing things in the news that are really, really important. That it's important for us, maybe us to talk about, because this goes back to what's trending, where problems are at. I mean, the biggest thing I got going on, obviously, is the weather stuff that's happening in different places. That's the biggest thing going on. But there's other things that go beyond that, right? Other articles, other things, and there are some things that I like to bring up. So one of the things that I'd like to bring up to you all that's important, and it's just one of those things that I just love to kind of show. There was an article, and I'll bring this article up in just a moment, so and then you all can see it. So just bear with me for a second, so that I can get this right for you. Um, if I go here and I go and check out, let's see, right here. Okay. You see this little article right here, Agile practices. They're not just for software. You see how at Penn, they're adapting Agile practices within technology, but beyond technology as well, beyond just the application of technology or the application of the actual software development. And you look at here, they're taking really the concepts of agile methods for software development and incorporating them other kind of ways, right? Talking about incremental delivery, right? Talking about the benefits of things like usability, the benefits of a development team that is consistently performing short cycles, really just finding better ways to work, right? And so my question for you all here is, have you experienced Scrum? Well, no, just agile practices beyond software development. Agile practices beyond software development. Have you had any exposure to those practices? If you have, let's talk about it. If you haven't, no worries. Okay. I always let people know about the fact that I use Scrum for my workout routine. Well, I'm going to say not workout routine, my health and fitness, right? Um, and, obviously I'm not doing software, right? But what you can see is I'm probably down to 190 pounds, within a month. I was at 200, but I focus down to my health and fitness, so and then I can make sure that I apply agile practices in general to my workout routines, to how I think about health and fitness. So, and then I can benefit from some of the agile practices. And that's very normal for me to do. There's nothing abnormal about that whatsoever. So when you start thinking about things that happened, over our time, you think about COVID, you think about all these other things. There's a lot of industries, hospitals, emergency folks who were utilizing many, many agile practices to help get things out the door. And this is one of those things where when some of you are looking for a gig or trying to find your next opportunity, um, you can take the wonderful and great things that you've done in terms of non-software related stuff, and couldn't you find a way to apply that, maybe utilizing a little bit of out-of-box thinking? Maybe, maybe that could be something that you can think about doing, something that you can, you know, deal with accordingly. That right there would probably be important for you to do. That right there would probably help you out, right? To just deal with that, to understand that. Because now what you're saying is if you have any exposure to Scrum within software, these people may find some value in having you around, right? That makes sense. And having you around because you experience these practices already in another arena. And sometimes they just want you to translate that to their arena, to their unique space, if that makes sense, right? I see, let's see, Philo Network. Now, look, I see, right? I'm assuming that you have applied this stuff software, outside of software. So it's one of those things for you to think about, and how you address that, how you do that is something that you're going to have to do. It's something you're going to have to think about, because at some point this space is going to be really, really saturated and you'll need to find opportunity elsewhere. And me, I've done Scrum outside of software so much that it's second nature to me. Okay. So look for those opportunities, expose this to other people, so and then they can actually maybe think about utilizing it in some kind of way. Okay. Think about utilizing it in some kind of way whatsoever. I don't know. Maybe you can. I don't know. Maybe you can't. We'll see. We'll see what you do. Okay. Let's see. I got a question here that someone just dropped as we're talking, but I'll put that article to the side. Let's answer a couple questions here. Yep. Understanding the University of Agile and its applications. Yeah. I mean, to me, you should be learned and you should apply this in other places, right? In other settings. I'm not talking about applying it to software in a different setting, right? Every industry has some form of software that's involved in it, period, but finding a way to apply it is really important. And the truth is, I always find some pleasure in it. I always find some really amazing pleasure in bringing new people around. Okay, universality. Okay. Ah, yeah, I read that wrong. Understanding universality of Scrum and its applications. I agree with you, so thank you for correcting me. So yeah, agree completely, right? And so it's one of those things where when you start thinking about how you're going to apply this stuff, how you're going to think about this stuff, how you can change it up to switch it to work is important. Just if you're doing it around in your own space, and it's not exactly in terms of delivering software. A great example would be, doing stuff around your house, helping a non-for-profit make this thing happen. And I'm not talking about the software space in terms of stuff that they do. Matter of fact, that gives me a good idea. I have a non-for-profit right down the street that does clothes. I looked in there, man, they got piles of clothes that's really up the wazoo. And I'm curious as to how they get through that pile of clothes, man, efficiently. We gotta wash them, do this, do that, and see what's good, see what's not good. They got all that stuff to do, right? Nah, I understand that. That is what it is, right? So it's definitely something that I love to just kind of pull back and think about, but finding ways to apply these and understand Agile and utilize Agile practices outside of the Agile arena, outside of the IT arena, arena is what I'm saying, is really, really important. So what is the job of a product manager in terms of Scrum duties in the software space? It's called a product owner. That's the closest thing you get to a product manager is a product owner. In a lot of organizations, product managers deal with strategy, classically visions, roadmaps, releases. And so in the Scrum world, a product owner has those kind of accountabilities. So what is the job of a product manager inside of Scrum or doing Scrum in a software space? It's called a product owner, right? That is the role that takes care of that. So nothing is surprising about that. Now, again, I'm going generically here because I find that there are organizations that have various titles and mean various things, right? And could mean just the opposite of what I'm saying. But in terms of Scrum, that role that would do classic product manager stuff is the product owner. I'm not saying all of it, but would definitely be more on the heavier lifting side of things in terms of it. So that's where you would get that, and that's important for you to understand. So now the question is, if you don't understand, what goes into that, that's when you become a CSPO. That's when you go learn and gain some knowledge in terms of this, which is all very, very important. Okay. So just looking at it is always looking at it a little bit different, but that's what it's all about. So I'll say once again, good evening, Miss Eve, Miss Evelyn, how you doing? Hopefully everything's going fine with you. Um, any other questions that you have? Because I can talk about another article because I had another one about time, uh, time to market, I do believe. Okay, let's see. I only got one person with all the questions today. Nobody else has any questions about Agile? Again, you're welcome to drop your questions in the chat or join me on the show. I've dropped the links. I'll drop them again in about 5 minutes. But where can I find an Agile partner? I don't understand your question. What is an Agile partner? What is an Agile partner? I don't know what that is. For me, there is a partner is two people working closely together, some partnership. Um, so I don't understand your question. So if you can clarify that question, that'll be great. What platforms? I don't understand. Are you talking about what tools people use to utilize Agile or to do Agile? If you're talking about what tools, what specific platforms, what tools people use, then you'll classically see things that exist in the space like version one, Rally. Microsoft has stuff, IBM has stuff, HP has stuff, ThoughtWorks has stuff, Salesforce at this point, ServiceNow, I do believe, Monday. There's all kinds of places that have some kind of platform to do this agile work and be able to have some level of transparency, at least electronically. Okay. Um, and so it don't seem like you're really talking about platforms like I would think of it. You mean a friend. So where can you find a agile friend? Is that the question you're asking me? I have never, there's no place, no website, no anything like that that says Agile Friends. It's not a dating site for Agilists. Now, I mean, we could create it, right? But there's no dating site for Agilists, not that I know of. And so my friendships have come in us having a natural love for this thing that we love to do. A lot of people that I am involved with, we have kind of crossed paths in some kind of way. It could have been in a training class. It could have been at some event, social event like a meetup. It could have been at a conference. It could have been at a job. So, if I think about the examples of who I talked to this weekend, one of them was a job. The other one started off in a class of mine. The other one started off in a class of mine. Okay. So it is one of those things where, that's kind of for me where they start off at, but it starts off with that mutual love that we have in common, and that ends up taking us in a direction. It's going to take us in a direction. Okay. Let's see. Great. Glad I got that question answer for you. This is something I rarely see come up. So, Evelyn, this is a good question. What's your take on discipline agile? It looks like it's becoming popular in the market. I don't know how popular it's becoming. Um, discipline agile. Um, that was always associated with scaling as well. It's definitely associated with PMI, and anything with PMI automatically has a current backing. My statement to you is this, though. I don't know how popular it is. Um, I have not personally heard of organizations jumping all in on discipline agile. But I will say this. If you're trying to be marketable and there are people looking for discipline agile, you should get the certifications so you can actually have the opportunity. Okay. In terms of me, I think it's there. It's just that I don't do a lot with it. I haven't seen a lot with it. Patrick says it's a good extension of agile knowledge space that tries to improve and extend on various frameworks. And that's an amazing thing, right? Some people will hate that. Some people will actually love it. Some people will hate it. Some people will love it. But just going back to your question, what should you do with it is more of what I'm thinking you're asking. If it was me and I was trying to gain ground in this space and I saw it as an opportunity, I would get my search related to that and see what it turns into. That's what I would do because there's a lot of agilists that's not looking at it as close as like that. Period. So as it's becoming more popular, there's kind of like this bell curve where you don't really want to be a late adopter. You don't want to be that. You want to be an early adopter of things because they're the ones that tend to make the most money, get the most experience, everything else, right? So I would kind of think of it from that perspective. Okay. So very, very important for you to think about these things as well, at least from that perspective, because really it's about how you're going to take advantage of it. And if you can, and it's going to be beneficial to you, and it's what you desire to do, I would definitely do it. Okay. So good question. Next question here. Different question. Okay. From Miss Fields. Oh, what is the difference in my class that I teach that's 8 hours versus four times a week? So here's what I'm going to say to you. It's an interesting experiment that I've been running. And I need to go beyond evidence and get proof of this. And I think that I'm going to do that. But for those that don't know, I'm a certified Scrum trainer and I do many CSM classes, period. Okay. Many other classes, and I follow the same rules here. The difference, the flat out difference is that they're both 16 hours worth of content. One happens over 2 days, the other one happens over 4 days. That is the theoretical difference between the two. That's it. That's it. Okay. However, I am finding that people enjoy the 4 day more. More people are enjoying the 4 day because this Scrum thing, the amount of data, the amount of information that I provide you in that class is so much that after day one of an 8 hour class, it's a bit much. And so over a 4 day class of 4 hours each day, people get to take a break, let their mind kind of let that information marinate in their brain so then they learn more. The bigger question that I have within myself is, does it improve my teaching? I would say to you fundamentally, yes. The 4 hour one improved my ability to teach because I'm not so pressed on going to a lunch. Because really, a lunch takes an hour out of each one of those days. And so the fact that I don't have to rush through all this content means that I'm able to give them more opportunity to practice certain skills and to work collaboratively even more in terms of groups. So I'm seeing that there's a difference in my training. We meet the same learning objectives, there's no question. But because of the timing, it has an impact. Okay? Now, the bigger question for me is fundamentally, and it's something that I'm going to explore because it's the nerd in me that's going to explore it, right? The nerd in me wants to move from evidence to proof. You know, anecdotal evidence is one thing, and I just gave you some anecdotal evidence, about the fact that I feel that it's better, right? Now, I have some more anecdotal evidence for you here that's evidence that it's good. I enjoyed the 4 hour class. We got somebody else that preferred the 8 hour class. I get it, right? But I'm getting more comments about people loving the 4 hour class over the 8 hour class. Okay? I'm just getting more comments about that, right? The question really at hand is the 4 hour class statistically better in some kind of way? And when I say better, what do I really mean by better would be the question. Okay, and I'll ask you all this question and you tell me what you think, because you may come up with different answers than me. If I was to provide you proof, what kind of proof could I provide you that would get you to truly believe that the same class with the same exact content, me doing 4 hours over 4 days, or me doing 8 hours over 2 days, same exact content, same trainer, that one is better than the other? What kind of proof would I need to provide you that one is better than the other one? If I had a hypothesis, the null hypothesis being nothing's changed, but then I had this hypothesis, H1 or whatever it is, that the 4 hour class was better in some kind of way than the 8 hour class. What kind of proof would you need in order for me to get you to truly believe that, beyond me just saying that it is? Anybody got any idea? I would love to hear your ideas about it, okay? And I say this for a reason. I'm in school for a PhD, right? I really am in school for a PhD, and I got to write a dissertation on something, right? I'm leaning toward adaptive leadership. I'm leaning toward proving whether this stuff that we talk about really works within the space. And, realistically, as I think about this question, I'm really, really curious on what proof I would need to show you. What proof would I need to show you? Anybody with any ideas about that, drop it in the chat. Drop it in the chat for me. I would love to hear your ideas about what you think on that. I say that for a reason, because I like to prove it. I'm not sure. My thought process firsthand is that it's better. But again, I would have to define what better means. Okay? What does better mean to you? If you was going to take a certified Scrum Master class with me and you had the choice between one or the other, what kind of data could I present to you, or what kind of proof can I show you that one of those classes with the same kind of content is better than the other? Right? I don't know. Well, I'm glad I answered your question. We got a theoretical difference. That was super easy. I am curious about that. Now, again, you're welcome to ask other questions, but I like to explore that, right? Okay. Let's see. Petra says students' ability to apply techniques learned immediately in a project. Okay, great. that means that I would have to find a way to have a fairly consistent project. Something where I can have, people who have been given these techniques, they get the same project as people who have not been given this techniques. And that would actually show me the difference between the two. So I can see that being applied. It's probably be difficult to do that. No question. I think it would be difficult for me to do that. Okay. But I mean, that's moving in the right direction. At least that's what I'm thinking, right? So come on, suss this out with me, right, for a second, right? Help me understand this, right? Let's see. Better means change or improving mindset. How do I show that your mindset has improved? And what do you mean by improving? What does that mean? What does better doesn't just mean a change or improving mindset. How do I measure an improving mindset? That's just evidence. I need proof that there's been a mindset improvement because I can't even tell you what a mindset is. So the first thing is, what's a mindset? Because we need a common definition on what a mindset is. Okay. Let's see. Change the mindset. Yes, we understand. So let's see. I think it revolves around individual preference. 4 hour days make you take the knowledge in slower, but with a little more focus because you're not exhausted. That could be one of the things that impacts. But how would I show you proof that one is better than the other? So I agree with you completely, Patrick. How can I show proof, right? So then I get a more coherent understanding. A more coherent understanding, I would agree with that completely. But how would I show that coherence? How would I show that? Well, here's one thing that I'm thinking, right? If I compared test scores, right? Because they're test scores, right? And the question is, the way I would think of it initially is an improvement simply is test scores. They all take the same test. I can compare the 8 hour group to the 4 hour group and see if it is statistically significant in terms of their test scores. You know, weekday class, weekend class, finding comparables like that. I have that data, right? I have that data available to me. But if I came to you and said to you, um, we have shown a 20% improvement on test scores when you take the 4 hour version of the class versus the 8 hour version. Would that actually convince you to join us? Would that actually convince you to join us? Like, would that convince you to join us in a 4 day class versus an 8 hour each day? You know, I don't know. Would that be the data that would move you in that direction? I have no clue. So something I'm thinking about, because that would make sense. And then I hear another option, which sounds good to me: retention. Retention rate. Retention of what, though? Retention of what? That's the question. What are we trying to retain here? Okay. Yeah. I'd have to make sure we understand what a retention rate means. Okay. And then have a ability to measure that. Jennifer says here, how soon did the 4 hour students land a job versus the 8 hour students? But my problem with that is really simple. There could be a lot of other factors that have an impact on somebody's ability to land a job. And so the question I would ask you, Jennifer, is how could I get rid of the other factors in terms of someone landing a job? You understand what I'm saying? Again, getting a job takes some effort, but there's so many other factors that go into getting a job. So I don't know how I would measure that, if that makes sense, without there being all these correlations that must be dealt with, right? Okay. Let's see. If appended to other metrics with that, okay. Let's see. At the end of the course, perform some type of survey. Survey data works, okay. Survey data can get you definitely some qualitative information. You may be able to convert that into some quantitative information, some numbers, basically. Yeah, so I can see using a survey to capture something, but the question is, what will we capture, and is what we're capturing going to be able to show that one is better than the other? I don't know. Okay, but I think that's a good idea. Okay, so a survey of your students over time may help to get an idea of what the impact is. Yeah, I would agree. A survey definitely would help. And when you say a survey over time, you're talking about doing multiple surveys of the students over time, and then I would have to determine what we're going to measure within that. I can see that happening, and I can see many students getting involved in that. One of the biggest problems I have with the space, y'all, I want you all to know this. One of the reasons why I decided to get my PhD is because we got a lot of evidence that's from one person. Well, what I would call evidence that is based on that person's experience, and that's it. That's it. We got evidence, but we don't have proof that it is something that is demonstratable, and it's just something that's repeatable, peer reviewed, all that kind of stuff. So when I look at case studies classically within the space, I see a lot of great ideas that likely would not stand up to any peer review or any repeat of that case study in another place, in another environment. Repeatability is also important, right? Okay, so really something to think about. So the survey data with the test scores, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Kalish, Chicago, bam, I got you. Okay. Um, let's see. I got comparing the test scores showing the potential students' overall results will motivate them to at least take the course with the better score in hopes that they will pass the test the first time. Agreed. And that would be hope, because what we're saying is that a better test score is a quantification of the word better. It kind of gives us better. So if they get better test scores, then it's better. The question is, we'd have to make sure that's statistically significant enough for us to say, hey, this is the reason. And could we isolate that? Could we truly isolate that and say, this is the reason? You know, it's a definite worthy thought process. And it's something that can definitely happen over, a good amount of time, right? So it's something I'm interested in, no question. I'm very interested in it, and I'm interested to see how to rock that and make it work. Because if I'm able to come to you and say to you, hey, I see, I see an improvement of test scores, but that improvement is not statistically significant. That improvement is not something that I can hang my hat on to say to you, this works all the time. Because after I would prove it with me, then I would have to prove it with other trainers to see if that remains true. Does that make sense? It'd be a worthy experiment to actually run, and I think that there might be some people that would be really interested in learning what the result of that experiment was. Because if one is better than the other one, the next thing I need to do is make sure that it's repeatable. Okay? If that makes sense, right? I only need 3 lines of proof. I don't know what you mean by lines. So what do you mean by 3 lines of proof, right? You know, um, I don't know how many, classes would need to be run in order to get this. I don't know what the sample size would need to be. I don't know, right? I don't know. But it's something that could be a very worthy exploration. Very worthy exploration. And it may be something that I do. If I decide to do it, I will let you all know about it for sure at some point. But yeah, that's completely caught my attention, right? I actually was having a conversation with my friend today about some of this stuff, and thinking through this stuff. Because here's the one thing that most of you all can't do right now. Show me repeatable proof that everything that the things that we espouse to be true are true. Let me repeat that for you so you understand. It's likely none of y'all can show me, because I haven't seen it yet, that the stuff that we state is true with Agile. That you have proof that it's true, that can be peer reviewed and stand on its own. Does that make sense? I mean, I want you to understand. I mean, does that make sense to you? Because this is what I'm talking about here. This is what I'm trying to go through. This is what I'm trying to deal with here. Okay? So it's something for you to definitely think about, because it is a big deal. It is a big deal because, you know, why wouldn't me as a trainer want to know that if I do it over a longer period of time, people do benefit from that? People benefit from that and benefit significantly. You know, I may guide people who are experienced with Scrum and Agile to the 2-day classes. I may end up in a situation where people that's brand new, you want to go to the 4-day classes. But before I would do any of that, if I'm running this test, I just let people kind of select into the groups that they want to select in. Hopefully get similar sample sizes. Make sure that 8, the both of them have a fair shot, and see which one comes out better. See which one of them come out better. I don't know. I don't know if it will, but I am interested in taking a look-see. And me taking a look-see is going to be important. Let's see. Quality of time duration spent is correlated with the tools implemented for effective learning. Well, in this situation, I'm not worried about any tools at all. Yeah, I'm talking about figuring out how we can prove whether, one 4-hour class and an 8-hour class, one is better than the other. Okay? Don't know, right? Don't know, right? And again, when you say tools, I don't know what exact tools you're talking about. Some of these are Agile tools to be able to get, to do the Scrum process. And again, I said those earlier, IBM, Microsoft, HP, ServiceNow, version 1, Rally, CA Central, ThoughtWorks, Mingle, they all have some versions of these things, right? So those things come a dime a dozen. There's lots of them now. There was a time when there was none, right? There was a time when there was none, where we went and just used things on a wall, and that worked out very well. I enjoy that style more than I enjoy many many other things. So I love that. I absolutely love it, and I just can't even really get around it truly. So that's definitely a super amazing thing. Definitely a super amazing thing. So I'm over here just kind of getting myself going right? We should baseline where we are prior to starting a project to prove that what we are saying is true. Yeah, but is that repeatable? Is it repeatable? Can you do that every single project? And if you did that, would that work on other organizations? I mean, I have uh, figured out, you know, things that show it's better, but what are you baselining in the beginning, right? That's really, really important. So all these thoughts are amazing thoughts, people. Those customers that are case studies will be subjected to some form of testing that I am referring to as tools. Okay, yeah, that can happen, but how many case studies do you go through to see if it's repeatable? And a lot of times with case studies don't deal with both sides. It doesn't have a true comparable. It's just dealing with pretty much a one-off in most cases. Okay. So you got to be really, really careful about something like that as well. Okay. So all very, very important, really good conversation here, y'all. Am I crazy thinking about the possibility of trying to prove this? Tell me, am I crazy, or is this something you like to see in the future? Just drop that in. If you'd like to see that in the future, give me a thumbs up. Give me a thumbs up as we get ready to ride out of here, right? And that is, see proof that Agile and Scrum works. See proof that Agile and Scrum works. Okay. Matter of fact, I'm probably going to create a class, related to maybe the role of Scrum Master, where I teach you about evidence based techniques that work within Agile. Give you a higher probability of success. Does that make sense? So that right there for me is something that is on, it's noodling. It's noodling. I got to figure out how I'm going to do it, but it's definitely noodling. So then I'm going to do it at some point. So just know that, and that is just amazing and good. Okay. So I love it. I love it. Love it. As you're giving me thumbs up, I appreciate that. We're going to work on this. I mean, this whole reason I'm in school for PhD is to get proof that this works. That's why I started, is to get proof that this works. And I have to figure out how to do this, get through a dissertation without trying to all the problems of the world. And typically in that, I want to find a gap in a space that I can deal with. So something I'm super interested in. Hopefully you're interested in that and seeing what my journey is like over time. Hopefully that's going to be the case, and we're just going to keep rocking and keep doing this as we must. On that note, it is 9 o'clock, people. It's time for us to be done. So I'm going to say I really, really do appreciate you. I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the comments, and we're just going to continue on this journey. So I'm going to say, look, you all have the most wonderful, wonderful rest of the week, and I will see you next Monday. Peace. Enjoy yourself.